He was born a farmer, but has also won Grammy Awards for his music. It's the life in between that has impacted education at the state's largest college and beyond. Tonight, a look at the extraordinary life of the University of Illinois' first black chancellor.
This is Chancellor Jones. He is one of the most amazing guys.
Since 2016, he's been a popular figure on campus. He's been associated with civil rights icons, earned recognition and praise for advancing education, especially for people of color.
Hello.
But the life of the University of Illinois' first black chancellor, Robert Jones, started on a much different path in a different time.
It was a road less traveled, and after I became very successful as a scientist, I came to a fork in the road and I took the wrong turn.
The 70-year-old school leader comes from a long line of Robert Joneses, the first of which survived slavery.
Raz Jones was my great-grandfather, and my grandfather was Robert Jones, and my dad was Robert or R.J. Jones. All sharecroppers, people that worked the earth, so very, very steeped in farming in southwestern Georgia.
And as a young man, Jones gravitated towards science.
I got myself into a lot of trouble as a kid because I couldn't afford a science kit, you know, the way the wealthy kids had, so I tried to make my own out of baking soda or vinegar, blew things up several times.
With a vocation teacher mentoring him in high school, Jones pursued agriculture, already nurturing the idea of an advanced education.
Took a liking to me and started to call me Professor Jones.
It solidified his interest in science, then a degree at Fort Valley State University, where he worked full-time to afford his own tuition. His focus, soil chemistry and plant physiology. Then a master's degree at the University of Georgia in crop sciences, and finally a PhD at the University of Missouri.
And a farmer asked me, it's been really hot here, over 100 degrees for 3 or 4 days, and I think it's at a critical stage. What impact is that going to have on my grain yield? And I had to tell him, I don't know. That became the subject of my research for 34 and a half years.
That started in 1978 when he was hired at the University of Minnesota as a researcher, studying corn and the effect of climate change on grain development. Along the way, Jones was working towards something besides his education from the outside in.
The sense of isolation, the sense of being the only one, the sense of really being at a university where there's not a lot of folks that look like you.
Jones High School was still segregated. Fort Valley is a historically black college, and as a postgraduate, he experienced a defining part of his life.
Blatant issues and challenges around race. I won't get into any details, but it was one of the most challenging periods of my academic career. And it's when I had to say to myself, not going to let anybody define my future.
That future took shape with its first step toward administration and away from science after becoming tenured at Minnesota as a research professor.
When people at the university became aware that there was this black scientist, probably the only one outside of the medical school at the university at the time, and in the effort to try to diversify perspectives and opinion, I got pulled into strategic planning committees. I was asked to develop a program.
That program brought Dr. Jones to South Africa.
My first response being a product of the South, like, what did I do? You know, I knew enough about South Africa to do it. It wasn't the place that I would go voluntarily, given the apartheid system.
Our march to freedom!
The opportunity brought Johnson into direct contact with Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
Archbishop Tutu had a great vision that he knew that apartheid would end at some point. And his vision was that if South Africa is going to be successful post-apartheid, you had to have more black educated citizens among its population.
It was supposed to be a 2-year assignment every summer, but it turned into a decade, granting thousands of scholarships to American universities.
It was one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. And I like to say that through Tutu's vision, I had the opportunity to contribute a very, very small way to ending the apartheid system.
Jones' life as a school CEO began in Albany, New York. Then in 2016, he changed his colors to blue and orange. I love the color scheme you got on.
Thank you. I wore this just for you today.
Well, it fits the moment, that's for sure. Now in his 7th year as a person in charge of U of I, Jones points to a number of achievements, increasing enrollment by 12,000 students, expanded sponsored research portfolio now approaching $800 million, the establishment of the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine graduating its first class this spring, and overall fundraising that surpassed a $2.25 billion goal a year and a half ahead of schedule. All while facing the unprecedented challenge of a global pandemic, which led to a school-developed COVID-19 test soon after the school shut down in-person learning in March of 2020.
The whole team is the research lab, more than 100 people, and in less than 6 weeks created the most amazing COVID-19 testing protocol and ecosystem in the world.
U of I's Shield test has now been used 7 million times around the United States and the world.
It made the difference for us staying open when there were no vaccines, because we were testing everybody twice per week. And there were many people that said that was nonsense.
And as Jones reflects on the audacity of that idea, it brings him to another, earlier part of his life, a musical life.
I had another life as a musician. Started in about 1980.
That's when Jones was asked to audition for a local choral ensemble, the Sounds of Blackness, who caught the eye of Janet Jackson at the end of her Rhythm Nation tour. The group took off when legendary R&B music figures, protégés of Prince, Jimmy Jam Harris, and Terry Lewis, produced a record that churned out the iconic 90s hit, Optimistic.
It talks about when in the midst of trouble, you can't look up while looking down. A brighter day tomorrow will bring. That is kind of been the theme song of my life, is to always remain optimistic.
The Sounds of Blackness enjoyed gold and platinum records and a pair of Grammys. And the song Optimistic has inspired a generation since and speaks to the mantra that keeps Jones always moving forward.
Just being the son of a sharecropper, not having much, but having big ideas and big dreams. That never give up on your dreams. Stay optimistic. Don't get too hung up on your current set of circumstances, so much so that you decide that you can't win, you can't go forward.
And so a big part of Jones' focus is taking a more visible role here in Chicago, reaching out to its leaders here in the city. And Dr. Jones says he's spending more time here to tell Chicagoans all about U of I's inclusion and affordability through the Illinois Commitment Financial Aid Program. Quite a story.
From pioneering pilots to an artist working to rebuild and revitalize parts of the South Side, we invite you to celebrate Black history and some of our local heroes, both past and present. You can watch WGN's Honoring Black History Month special tomorrow at 7 p.m.